Welcome to the Stream of David on OMTimes Radio with best-selling author, channel, and creator of the Taya spiritual practice, David Strickel, shares the eternal wisdom of the consciousness called the Stream. The Stream of David show is fun and informative and seeks to not only answer all your spiritual and life questions, but to also provide proven tools to navigate life's obstacles and find a path to joy, clarity, and abundance by hearing the Stream's no-nonsense, direct approach to spirituality. Prepare to have your mind blown and receive clarity on your life and the universe like you perhaps never have before. And now, your host, David Strickel.
Hi, welcome to the Stream of David show. I am here once again with my good friend Matt Gardan. Hi, Matt.
Hey, David. Hi, everyone.
So we're going to dive into a few things today, but the main topic that we're going to talk about is a technique that we have developed in the Taya practice called zooming out. And Matt zooms out all the time. You're pretty zoomed out naturally, I think.
Zoom.
So yeah. Let's get into the idea of zooming out is really about connecting to higher consciousness, and I think the Stream used this term first, and then we've just taken it and ran with it. It's zooming out to a higher perspective and developing the technique. And if you get into the Taya practice, there's lots of pillars to it, and of course we talk about it on the show all the time. There's lots of things that we do that help raise our vibration. And I will tell you that the more you raise your vibration, the easier zooming out is. But the actual process of zooming out has allowed me 10, 11 years into this Taya practice for myself, because I created it. It allows me to stop before I go down my spiral on a topic and zoom out to the higher perspective and get clarity pretty quickly. And it really changes your day-to-day life when you start doing it. So Matt, why don't you share a little bit of your opinion of zooming out and maybe an experience that you've had with it so far?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, David. I think the zooming out, a lot of the meditations that you have on your site and in that we do in the Taya practice have this lovely scene where you kind of literally see yourself removed from, the suburb, the city, the country, the planet, blah blah blah, and you kind of have this view of the universe, and you realize how absolutely tiny we are in all of it. And that perspective, that kind of reminding yourself how insignificant we are, automatically makes your problems insignificant. Because I think we can get so close to the fire of whatever's irritating us that we forget that if you just zoom out a little bit, you'll see that it's just a match, and you can deal with it quite easily. So that ability to just deconnect from what you're immediately reacting to, I think, is the best benefit of zooming out for me. And it's funny, David, as you were talking about it then, my wife has picked up a form of zooming out as well, which is a very 3D one, but it's kind of the same thing. Will this worry me in 3 hours, 3 days, 3 months? And it's just kind of that, actually, I'm not going to be annoyed about this in 3 months' time. And zooming out is the same technique, but with a more universal view, and it's less time driven. It's a lot more about connecting back to your inner self that's always there, and finding the peace and clarity from that connection. And typically I find that zooming out can really help when I'm stressed or fearful about a situation, because once you remove yourself, even if it's just in your imagination, from what's going on, you tend to also decouple or detune the emotions that are kind of racing around. And I think it's kind of it's a fabulous tool to be a little bit of a tripwire to kind of stop you boarding the thought train and going down your spiral and getting stressed about something or getting irritated about something. And that ability to zoom out regularly just keeps you happier, you know. And it's funny, just a little example on the weekend, I had the kids with us this weekend, and my daughter spent like 3 hours in the kitchen one night and made this amazing meal. It was super complex and just loads of bits and pieces going on, and there were pots and pans everywhere. And you know, we were just so focused on how much effort she'd made and how happy it had been and what a good experience it was, that everyone kind of pitched in and did all the chores afterwards and cleaned it up, and the house was spotless. And afterwards I just thought, wow, you know, even a month ago I would have been screaming at everyone, I would have been shouting, I would have been so angry, why isn't this done, why is dinner late, why is that? But the ability to just zoom out and allow people that space to just not be stressed and be happy about things kind of fosters a sense of well-being and happiness, because when you zoom out you can not be stressed about a situation, and when you're not stressed about a situation, that vibe of relaxed, calm detachment is also contagious for other people in the situation. Does that make sense?
Certainly, it's the detuning of fear, and the fear is the trigger that takes us down into negative emotion. And when you're able to stop and breathe, and like you said, it's a tripwire to zoom out and see things from a higher perspective, you're rarely going to dip down into negative vibration over just about anything. And the more you keep your vibe up, the better your life gets. That's the bottom line result of Taya and all these things, that you raise your vibration, raise your vibration, raise your vibration, be in a state of joy. From joy comes clarity. From clarity comes more joy, for me at least. Clarity is my favorite thing in life. And then the abundance just flows naturally from there, because when you're not in fear, you can trust. And that's the key to all of this, is zooming out to the higher perspective so that you're not drawn into the ego-driven human condition of being tripped by fear. And that's what we want to, work to move ourselves out of. If we want to be happier, if we want to be abundant, if we want to be freer, releasing fear is the key to doing all that. It's funny, I was telling you right before we came on about this wonderful post that my good friend Andrea St. Amand, she's going to be on the show in 2 weeks. And I've done some Facebook Lives with her. And she's fantastic. She wrote this great, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long, so go to my Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, it's called Taya Global Awakening, TYA Global Awakening. And if you're in the old Facebook group, well, guess what? You're now in Taya Global Awakening, because we changed the name. So you're in there. If you've been in there, you're a legacy member. You're in there now. But it has evolved to Taya Global Awakening, because that's what this is all about. Taya has moved beyond. Well beyond just a tool to manifest, money and things and happiness and improved health and all that stuff. It really is a facilitator of awakening. And wherever you are in your stage of awakening, whether you're just wanting to be more awake, or you feel like you're fully awake and you're just experiencing life from that higher vibration, the Taya tools, are here to help everybody, to help all of humanity, everyone that's ready for them. And this zooming out is just proving to be a fantastic technique to be able to take any situation and see it from a higher perspective. Michael and I watched some documentaries last night on Netflix, and I was really interested in watching the one on cults, because I have been accused of having a cult in the practice of Taya. Of course, I don't think it's anything like a cult. But the first thing they said is that every cult says it's not a cult. Kool-Aid. Yeah, there's no Kool-Aid to drink. Yeah, but I thought that was so funny with this, because I always say Taya is not a religion or a cult, and the stream has even said, they're not a religion or a cult, and they said the common thing is that cults always say they're not a cult, so I'm going to stop saying that. I'm just going to let people make their own determinations. But in Taya, we're not asking you to obey any rules, to worship anybody. to turn your back on your family, or come to a camp or any of those kind of things. And if it ever starts to sound like that, I'll tell everybody, I'm the first one, run away from it if it ever starts to sound like that, because that's not the intention. It's a mindset practice, and it helps you make sense of our world, which now more than ever seems kind of senseless, from the 3D perspective. But when you zoom out, it seems beautiful. When you zoom out and understand that we're here for contrast, and that we see institutions crumbling that we really don't need anymore, and that we don't have to give power to political movements and things like that if we don't want to. We have the ultimate control over our lives, and there are people throughout history that no matter what situation they were placed in, they found a way to thrive. And we all have the ability to do that. We all come with the equal ability to find a path to freedom and joy. I know that to be true. Some of us come with more obstacles than others, yes. But in the overcoming of those obstacles, we expand even more as a being. So whatever obstacles we have, know that we can overcome them. And in the overcoming of them, because I had a very rough childhood. I was told that I wasn't going to amount to anything, that I was not wanted, that I was useless, that I was a loser. My mother told me she never wanted me. My father took off and started another family and really wasn't involved in my life. And I was really left to my own devices. And luckily, I had this stream thing that was available that I really started paying attention to. And it guided me ultimately to understand that those were my transgressors in life. And we all have our version of them. And everybody, of course, thinks that they're the worst. So whatever hand we were dealt in life, we can move through that. And I have noticed in my life that people that were born into quite a bit of privilege very often create their own transgressors down the road, so they have something to solve. People that are born into money and comfort and all of that very often go down paths that are things that we wouldn't necessarily want, to create the transgressor to possibly solve it or not.
Yeah.
So I'm way off topic there, as I tend to get. But anyway, so if you're not in Global Awakening, go into Facebook and join Taya Global Awakening. Let me know that you heard it here on OMTimes. And I'd love to hear from you and just hear what you think of the show so far. We've been out for a few months now, and I like feedback. So come into the Facebook group. I used to say give out my email address, and then I realized I can't possibly keep up with all the email that I get, so I don't do that anymore. But come into the Facebook group and post in there. And we do have the Stream of David page on Facebook, on Instagram, and we have a channel on YouTube as well. So if you're interested in more of what the stream has to offer, or learning more about the Taya practice, we have all of those points of social media. We also have the Stream of David website. So back to zooming out. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to say, the beauty of zooming out is that it allows you two things. One is to slip into that zone of just allowing things to unfold. And the more you trust that they will unfold well, the more chance they have of unfolding well. And when you zoom out and find that clarity and find that peace of mind, that allows you to more easily trust that things are going to work out. And the things working out might be just getting out of the way and letting it unfold, or it might be a moment of inspiration where the solution kind of lands in your lap and then you take inspired action. But you need to consciously commit and focus on letting go of the outcome and just trusting that it's going to be the right outcome. And even when it's not what you thought it would be, trust that zooming out allows you to see that from a higher perspective, it is perfect and it is divine timing, and it will teach you what you need to know. And in the order of the universe, everything is just happening perfectly. At the moment with the reset, if you think it's been 3.5 months since COVID kind of put the world on pause, and there's an awful lot of upheaval and there's an awful lot of chaos, but everything's kind of adjusting. And being able to zoom out helps you feel a bit more at ease about how things are going to eventually unfold.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was driving at too, is, watching that documentary on cults. I realize that a documentary is someone's opinion, and they're going to gather the facts that support their opinion. And there were other documentaries that we watched last night that were sort of the same thing. I was able to zoom out and say, okay, that's this person's opinion. It's interesting. It's thought-provoking. That's great. But I'm not taking it necessarily as fact. And the same thing in the cult video. I watched it because I have been referred to as a cult before and thought it was interesting. And then I'm watching it, and sure enough, they show Esther Hicks' picture referring to Abraham as a cult. Mm-hmm. And I understand that there are people out there that revere Esther in such a way that it can feel like they're in a cult from their perspective. But I know enough of the Abraham teachings, because I really sort of, cut my teeth, if you will, as a channel, really paying attention to Abraham and very aligned with that message, that there's nothing cult-like about it. It's very much about personal empowerment. It's not about following necessarily. But I understand that there's value in people viewing something and seeing it with a reverence that gives them peace of mind and hope and comfort. And I think as long as it's not turned into a cult, you're okay. But when you turn it into something where you're controlling someone else's mind, that's very different. I've never seen that message. So I zoomed out in that moment and thought, wow, I realize now that I shouldn't even worry about whether people consider me a cult or not. I just need to be and offer this message, and however other people view it is really not my business. And if I end up on a show like that, being held up as an example as a cult, I guess I should just take it as flattery and not really worry about it. But I do want to read you quickly. We're about to go to break, but just the first part of Andrea's message. Fear is more contagious than the coronavirus, more deadly, more insidious. There is a place for fear, but know that fear is also a tool, the most powerful weapon on the planet to turn you from a free thinker into a zombie pawn. As a society, we're in a race to the bottom of the fear swamp right now. And it goes on from there, but you can tell by the way that starts where she's going with it. I encourage you all of you to go to the Facebook group, Taya Global Awakening, and read this entire letter, because it's really interesting, because we do see a lot of evidence of people really allowing all of this fear-mongering that's happening in the news right now to really negatively impact them. So much so that I don't even go on the regular Facebook feed anymore, because there's just so much what I call mask shaming for people not wearing masks in public, and they're going to kill everyone, and we're all going to die, and it's only getting worse, and then there's some political thing, and it's all of this really, really negative banter that I know doesn't serve us, because whatever we're focusing on, we're going to get more of. So I want to focus on peace and prosperity and good health and people learning to live together. When we get back, Matt will be talking directly with the stream. We'll be right back. Mm-hmm.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
As I'm sure you know, it is time to celebrate self-discovery and personal growth. But your efforts have to be consistent in order to stay balanced and to overcome depression and fears. So, what new books are available? How do you stay centered? Elizabeth Joyce and her guests will help you find out. That's Elizabeth Joyce on Let's Find Out, Mondays at 6 p.m. on OMTimes Radio.
We are experiencing a global reset, and much of the world is living in fear. But I see Taya practitioners thriving in this new reality.
I see Taya overflowing in every aspect of my life. It's just truly magnificent. There were times that I was not self-assured and didn't have the self-confidence, but now I'm fearless. I really love myself, and I know how to live in joy and let go of all these things that held me back from living this beautiful life I've always dreamed of. And it's amazing how rapidly those things start showing up once you practice Taya.
It changes everything about you, and it will affect all other aspects of your life, your health, your career, your money, your relationships. And I think that certainly has helped with my anxiety, with my mental health. I'm realizing that, wait a second, I deserve the best in life.
Visit thestreamofdavid.com/TYA to learn more about the Taya Mindset Practice and Taya Bootcamp.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
We are here.
Thank you for joining us. We'd like to ask you some questions, if we may.
You may.
Thank you. We've been talking on the show before you joined us about zooming out and the benefits of that. Could you give a brief example to those who maybe aren't as familiar with David's work and your teachings, just on what zooming out is and how it can help people in their day-to-day lives?
The idea of zooming out, we will begin with sharing with you, as we have shared many times before, that we are part of you and you are part of us. You are all connected to the eternal consciousness that many of you refer to as source and many other things. And you all have your own version of this stream that flows to you. David's is very pronounced and very detailed, and he has taught himself over a lifetime to think it and write it and speak it in such a way that he can share it for the benefit of all those who are vibrationally aligned with it. But nonetheless, you all have your version of this available to you. And when we use the phrase zooming out, we are speaking of elevating your vibration to a higher perspective. To our perspective, to one where everything that is happening on your planet is perfection, because the purpose of your planet, as in all physical environments, is contrast, is a mix of positive and negative things. And you, humanity, as independent strands of soul consciousness as you are, choose to come to this environment understanding from your higher perspective that you are going to come and project yourself vibrationally as a vibrational match into a set of circumstances so that you have a unique, one-off, in this case, human experience. And part of that human experience is allowing your human consciousness or your ego to overshadow the wholeness of that which you are. So you do not come in and retain your universal knowledge. You do not retain the information of all the other existences that you have experienced. Because if you had all of that knowledge, you would not be able to come and have the unique contrasting experience that you do. You are actually here for the negative as much as you are here for the positive. And we understand that humanity is developed in such a way that the vibration at present is all about avoiding pain at all costs. But our message to you is that you are not here to necessarily avoid the pain. You are here to experience it, find appreciation for it, see how it serves your expansion, and release it. And the more you cycle through that process as a human being, the more you expand, not only as a human being in your current life experience, but as a soul consciousness being. It is the entire reason that you come to physical. That and discerning preferences for things that you do appreciate and finding your path to experiencing them. And of course, the path to experiencing them is always, if you will, riddled with little bumps in the road that are your obstacles. That's the purpose of life. And your expansion, you are expansive beings as we are expansive beings. We are energetic. We are consciousness. We are energy. And we are ever expanding. And if we stop expanding, we will go in the opposite direction. But there is no opportunity for that because physical creation is ever expanding. And physical creation is all about creating and overcoming obstacles. Notice that all of your new creation, all of it is overcoming an obstacle of some sort. So that is your purpose, and that is your connection in a nutshell. And you have access to it at all times, though you have evolved to a point across humanity where you shut that off. You very often shut it off. You live in what Matt refers to, and David often refers to as the 3D, the physical realm solely, and not allowing your eternal connection to flow, being told that it does not exist or being told that it is something different than what it is. There's a lot of misinformation regarding this connection, and we are here to illustrate how simple and divine it actually is. And in your connection to it, you can rise to a higher vibration from any point and view your world, the universe, and your life from that vantage point, that very high vantage point of all negative on your planet being part of the equation, being why you are here. And then there are things that you will certainly encounter that you prefer as not your preference. Seeing someone harmed in some way, viewing people starving to death, hearing about war, all of these things are not suddenly going to be something that you want for yourselves or for other people. But you zoom out and you see it from a higher perspective, and you come to understand that every being on your planet is living the level of contrast that they came to experience from that higher perspective. And that includes each and every one of you. And when you look back at all of the negative things that you've encountered in your lives, and many of you have quite a few, especially if you're listening to a program like this. This is a very transformative healing process. And most of you are here for clarity on that. So you've had a lot of contrast in your lives, and here you are looking to solve it. And one of the tools of solving it is zooming out to a higher perspective, viewing things from a very different point of view, and finding a path, even if it's a long path, to appreciating it and thus detuning the power that it currently holds over you.
Oh, thank you. Beautiful words. And if I understand correctly, it's that ability to see a wider perspective that allows us to detach from the 3D-ness of it. Is that right?
Indeed it is, and we will provide an example. You see a news story about someone who is being mistreated, and the news story is crafted perhaps to instill an emotion in you, outrage or fear or something along those lines, and it keeps you perhaps glued to the story to keep seeing more because of the fear. You are fearing it, you're watching, you're absorbing the fear is building in momentum within you, and if you do not understand law of attraction, you are not completely understanding that you are then in turn creating negative things in your own life experience based on the fear that you are experiencing viewing someone else. This is how you bring unwanted things into your lives. And when you're able to view someone being mistreated in some way and discern a preference that for you do not want to include that in your life experience, and even a preference that they not experience that, but then zoom out to the higher perspective of this is that person's path, or they would not be experiencing that. And from the higher perspective, understanding that a difficult life sometimes is part of the soul's journey that is desired for the contrast that it provides and the expansion, the expansive opportunity. And if you start to detune two key things in your lives, one is fear and the other is judgment, and judgment is actually rooted in fear. You start to detune those two things, and suddenly you're able to shift and slowly see things from a different perspective, from what we would refer to as a higher perspective that is part of you, that is available to you. And when you do this zooming out and you start to shift your perspective, and say, I wish I had not seen that. I wish that those things did not happen in my world, but I understand why they do. And I understand that person was on this journey and on this path and is having that negative experience. But from the higher perspective, you also understand that you are all eternal beings. You all are many, 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 many different things infinitely. And this current human life experience is but one of infinite other experiences. And your life is delicate. Humanity is delicate, and you can come and go with relative ease. And in the coming and going of relative ease, we guide you to zoom out and see that relative ease is not the beginning nor the end of you. And when you start seeing that differently, you take the pressure off of your own life experience, and you take the pressure off of your judgment of the life experience of others, and it detunes the negative emotion around it, and you're able to zoom out and relax into the experience of others, even if it ultimately is not your preference.
Oh, beautiful perspective there. And I love that idea of this is just one of infinite experiences we're going to have in many different realms and many different planets and universes. It kind of just allows us to relax and have more fun in this particular ride that we're on at the moment.
We guide you to understand that you all operate in your own bubbles of reality, and it is not your job nor your place to judge another's bubble of reality. You are here for your bubble, and the very best that you have to offer humanity is a very high vibrational version of you, a very high vibrational bubble. And if you're busy watching and concerning yourselves with the bubbles of others so much and allowing it to take you down into negative vibration, you're actually fueling the perception of that problem rather than solving it. You are adding more momentum to it. So you can partake in whatever you wish to partake in, watching the news, being involved in politics, protesting. There is certainly nothing wrong with any of those things, and there's nothing wrong with whatever your perspective is. There's no judgment from us on any of it. But if it's taking you down your spiral into lower vibration, understand that you are not reaching your goal of actually being of service. The anger has to turn at some point into going up your spiral and looking towards solutions. And from your high vibrational perspective, that is your best offering that you have for your fellow humans. And it is up to you and your preference how you get involved, if at all. Humanity does not need saving from itself. You see examples of people manifesting different types of lives. And we guide you, most importantly, not to judge them from your perspective, because you're always judging from your own perspective if you are judging at all. There is a difference between judging and discerning preference, and we guide you to discern your preferences. And from your higher vibrational standpoint, decide how you want to get involved, and certainly get involved in any way that you want to, but ensure that it's from a higher perspective if you truly want to be effective in helping change. And when you allow yourselves to judge life and death only from the 3D perspective, and it is part of that which you are, and we certainly understand that, without moving to a higher vibrational perspective of it, you're always going to be stuck in believing that death is the worst thing that can happen to you, yet it's the one thing that is going to happen to each and every one of you, is your version of human death, your transition back to your completed state. And the reason that we guide you to view it more lightheartedly, if you will, is to take the pressure off of your life. And David was speaking of watching these documentaries, and he watched an additional one on pandemics. And of course, the entire the fear-based thinking behind the pandemic is that people die. Yet people die on your planet every day. People are born and die every day. It's part of the human experience. And when you have an illness, there's nothing wrong with wanting to solve the illness and wanting to be healthy and wanting to have a long life. There's nothing wrong with any of that. That's high vibrational thinking. But when you are dipping down into lower vibrational fear-based thinking of this might happen to me and I do not want this to happen to anyone else, and those poor people are having this death experience, you're lowering your vibration. You're actually placing yourself more in the path of something like that than if you simply focus on excellent health.
Focusing on what you want rather than what you fear.
That is a zoomed out perspective indeed.
Oh, Brilliant. Thank you. It's been so lovely to have these words with you today. We're almost out of time. Do you have any last pieces of advice for us?
If you were hearing our words for the first time, some of them may seem harsh, but our goal is to always be as direct and based in universal law as possible. You have a lot of human construct around our teachings. You have all sorts of spiritual teachings. You have all sorts of scientific teachings and even religious teachings. And there is nothing wrong with any of that. You're human beings, and you're trying to understand that which we are and that which you are. Our goal in sharing is to be as clear and as simple and rooted in universal law as possible, and know that if you set aside fear and listen to our words and allow them to resonate, they will begin to transform your lives. And we are the first to tell you that if you cannot bring yourself to that place, then you're not ready for these words, and you are right to move on from them. But we want very much for all of you to understand that these tools are available to all of you, and they make you a more joyous, more abundant, more clear being. And those of you that are ready for that, we have the recipe for it. We have the tools, we have the guidance, and David and others such as Matt are creating the community around a higher understanding of how universal law actually operates in your modern society, and what works and what is fluff. And that is what David's intention is all about. So therefore, that is what is being shared. With much love, that is all we have.
Oh, namaste. Ooh. Hey man, we're just about to go to the break, but that was some beautiful, beautiful words from the stream.
Good. The zooming out thing is a very powerful tool, and I'm excited to be able to come and share it with everybody, and know that that's what their focus was in the sharing here. So I can't wait to come back and listen to it. But for right now, we're going to go to our next commercial break. We'll be right back in just a moment with Matt Gardan.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Consistently attract soulmate clients, begin showing up on brand, monetizing on your calling. Welcome all spiritual coaches, leaders, healers, light workers, and practitioners to a show that turns you on in your business and amplifies your magnetism. I'm host, catalyst, and spiritual business coach Rosalind Fung, and I'm here to journey with you into the juicy and help you discover where the real gaps are. Ignite your mindset and soul with strategies and systems as each episode takes you to the sweet spot that activates your soulgasmic business by tuning in on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain. Join me for your light language activation, and let's magnetize and monetize.
I'm David Strickel, channel, author, and creator of the Taya Mindset Practice. Taya is a set of mindset tools that I co-created with the eternal wisdom of the stream. Join us in the Taya community, where we learn to release fear and truly trust the universe to deliver everything that we want and need.
This work is profound. If you do the Taya Bootcamp and maintain a daily practice, you will fundamentally change your life. I've maintained my practice pretty regularly since graduating. I meditate every day, I trust the universe to deliver what I want, I set intentions for my day, and I monitor my vibe up and down my virtual spiral. Doing these things consistently and regularly has made me a better father to my kids, a better lover to my partner, and a better boss to my team. This work is transformational, and it will completely change your life. I can't recommend it enough.
Learn the mindset practice that is changing lives all over the world.
Visit thestreamofdavid.com/TYA to learn more and book your free discovery meeting today.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything. I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor. If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
We are back with Matt Gardan and coming off of a stream session, so I'm buzzy.
Yeah.
I go in loopy and I come out buzzy. What is that? I told Matt that during break that they were sort of raring to go before we went to the last commercial break, and that's why I was kind of zipping all over the place because the energy, the vibration rises so much. It's like the energy just kind of speeds up, and I'm just thinking all over the place. So. But I'm sure they had a great message. So let's kind of unpack what they shared with you, Matt.
I think there were two things. The one, the one that resonated most for me, because I love that kind of multi-dimensional quantum reality thing, was we are here having an infinite amount of lives in an infinite amount of different realms. So don't worry about this one.
I like what they say, and this is don't put pressure on it, right? I like that message. We put so much pressure on this current human life because most people believe that this is all there is. Even religious people seem to believe this is all there is. This is it. You're born, you're dead, and that's it. It's the only life you've got to live, so make the most of it. I say you get to live infinite lives. You can't get it wrong, so why not make the most of it while you're here? It's kind of the same message in a more positive sense. But having this zoomed out perspective, I've been at this, and if you are listening, if you're a new listener to the show, I channel the stream. It's something that's been coming to me my whole life, and I just got through channeling in the last segment. If you were hearing what that was, that's what it was all about. It's a little different than listening to me. But based on their teachings, I had some frustrations in my own life based on what they were offering regarding universal law, and I knew that I had to solve them, and I created this set of tools for my life that I started teaching 2.5 years ago. And we call it TYA, T-Y-A, for Trust Your Abundance. And abundance really means whatever your version of abundance is: joy, clarity, happiness, financial abundance, abundance of health, abundance of good people in your life, whatever it is. It's trusting the universe to deliver everything that you want. And the only way that we really reach a place of trust is when we release fear. Because when you're trusting and you go down in vibration a little bit, fear is going to set in. And then all of a sudden, all the things that you were trusting and believing when you were in high vibration, you're questioning, and how is it going to happen, and when is it going to happen, and that won't work for me. And the last time I tried that, it was a big disaster, and I'm not going to do that again. All those limiting belief thoughts that we tell ourselves, it's all rooted in fear. So I created TYA to remedy all of that, and it seems to do a really good job of it for me and for other people. But here I am 11 years into it, and it's still a practice. It's still something that I do every day. I still have little things that bubble up that need to be detuned. I still have things that I need to meditate and show appreciation for every single day. But I love it. I love the process of it. And now I can view things that are, quote unquote, life and death very differently, and see someone who's having an experience that is not my preference, as they are, from a soul conscious perspective, here living out what they came to live out. And I need to be at peace with that and not judge it, because I don't know what's going on in their vibration. I don't know exactly what drew George Floyd to the scenario where he was killed, by the police officer. We don't know that. That's his personal journey, and now, all we can do is show appreciation for the fact that in this example, that was his personal journey. And that doesn't mean that the officer was a good person or did him a favor or anything like that. They were vibrationally matched to the experience. And the officer was vibrationally matched to what he did, and now will be vibrationally matched to the consequences. But it's all 3D human experience stuff that we can learn to view very differently and not have it drag us down in vibration. That's the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And another one of the messages that was really lovely too is that, David, you and I are no more special than anyone else. Everyone has access to this connection. and it's free, and you just need to quieten your mind and meditate a little bit and learn you need to learn the skill of meditation to more easily access your higher self. But everyone has one. No one gets born without one. And I think that was a lovely message too, because sometimes, and you get this a lot, David. Oh, it's easy for you. You've been doing it for 11 years, or it's easy for you guys. You've done it so far. But the only reason it's easier is because we've just been consistently doing it.
We did it enough to see the results. Yeah, we did it enough to see some results in our lives, and we allowed that to excite us enough to keep doing it. And you just have to be patient with it. I have a chattery mind. I to this day, drink a lot of coffee. I have a lot of caffeine. You can sometimes tell by the way I talk. I have 2 espressos before I come on the air. And, my mind can be very chattery. And there's nothing I love more, though, than those little bits of silence that I get when I'm outside, especially in the morning, and I hear the birds chirping, and it's relatively quiet, and I'm breathing in deeply, and I can just tune out and quiet my mind, and then thoughts drop in. I let them go. It's just an amazing process. And even if you just do it for a few seconds, if you do it every day, it gets easier and easier and easier, just like everything else. If you drive a car, the first time you drove a car, it's probably a lot messier than it is, 20 years later, right?
I don't know, David. You haven't seen my driving.
That's true. I can only imagine what your driving is like.
It's on the wrong side of the road, for one.
Well, for here it would be. That's true.
Yeah.
So really, the zooming out thing, it's available to all of us. We can all take a higher perspective. And I understand that when you say, if you see someone being abused, you should zoom out. Sounds like bypassing, but it's not. The term spiritual bypassing means, you're just going to be spiritual. You're not going to play in 3D anymore, and you're just going to ignore everything. I just want to be clear that Taya and zooming out is not about that. Zooming out is not a permanent place. You zoom out, you get a higher perspective, and then you bring that higher perspective back down to your 3D reality, and you see things differently, and then you discern your preference from there. And if you want to go protest, if you want to go help somebody in need, whatever you want to do, you get to choose. There's no rules in Taya. There's no right or wrong. There's no, duty. There's none of that stuff. It's personal empowerment and personal choice. But I do believe we have the most to offer other people when we're really in high vibration.
Exactly, and that was another thing, that came through really strongly while you were channeling. I think we should also say that you don't remember much of what's going on when you're channeling. So you kind of need to go back and re-listen to it. You're kind of in a bit of a trance state, which is why we're kind of rehashing it now.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to the show, when I first started the podcast, the Stream of David started out as a podcast, and I still have a podcast. Most of it is this radio show put up as a podcast. But I would go on by myself because I didn't know anybody that would talk to me about this stuff at that time. I literally had 0 friends that would be into this sort of thing. And now a few of them have gotten into it, certainly, but at that time I didn't. So I would do a podcast by myself in my living room, and I would start out on a topic, talking from my human perspective on a topic, and then I would take a little break, I would meditate, I would come back on, I would record a stream message regarding that topic, and then I would stop, I would listen to it back, and then I would come back on and comment myself on what the stream. So you sort of had 3 different versions of me on the podcast. So if you go back to the 2017 podcast, that's what that is. And now it's evolved to where I have all these friends that are into this stuff and all these people that have taken my boot camp that I can have on. And it's just a great community now to share these teachings with the world. And I love having other people come on and question and kind of query the stream, because so much great new information comes from those questions. And it just gets better, and the message just gets stronger and stronger and better, as we go. And, it's always kind of a no-nonsense, here's eternal wisdom, here's how you can do this. It takes time and practice sometimes to wrap your head around all these teachings. But it all starts to fall. If you follow it enough, it all starts to sort of fall into place for you, what they're meaning by these certain things. In fact, we've come up with Matt's team has come up with a glossary of stream terminology that we're going to include in the next book, and I think it's going to be available on the website. So if there's ever a phrase that you hear that doesn't make sense, you'll have a place to go and hopefully get a definition of it.
Yeah, and go back and listen to some of those earlier podcasts. They're great. There's some really fantastic stuff in there. Some really raw. It's like your early albums.
The really good stuff.
Yeah,
and they talk about just
work.
about. Yeah, there are topics. The earlier ones were really specific topics, and we kind of dove into the hot button topics right off the bat. We got into abortion, transgender people. We talked about the 2017 was the Donald Trump's first year of being president of the United States. We got into that. All sorts of topics. We're not shying away from any human topic. We're not trying to just talk about crystals and chakras and and spirit guides and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with any of that, but there's a lot of that out there, and I just really want to channel the stream and strip it down to this is universal law, and this is how I've learned to apply it in my life. And at this point in my life, I can say that I have, I've lost 100 pounds. I have, come from poverty to wealth. I have gotten out of bad relationships. I've gotten into the best relationship that I can imagine having in my life now. I've gone through ups and downs financially and always been taken care of and always found my way back to abundance. I live in excellent health. Even though I'm losing my voice a little bit right now. My life's not perfect, but I have created and solved a lot of problems in my life with these tools, and now I teach other people these things. I was addicted. We have that opiate commercial that runs. I was addicted to OxyContin for a year, and got myself off of that. So I've sort of created all these experiences so that I can empathize, I guess, on a human level with people that have them.
Yeah, and just because that's partly what we're here for, right? Is to have a rich human experience. Just to kind of go back to zooming out, and one of the messages from the stream was the purpose of zooming out. When you see something on TV that you don't like, the purpose of zooming out is it's a tool you can use to not get sucked into that fear vibration. We don't like seeing people getting shot in the street. We don't like seeing kids starving in Africa. But if you zoom out and understand the perfection of it all, it allows you to come back and decide your preference in relation to what you're seeing from a higher perspective. And if you spend more time in that higher perspective, you can be of more use to those people around you, instead of being terrified and always afraid and all of that sort of stuff. And I think that's what zooming out can be a really effective tool for, is to just stop you from getting sucked into the terror of the world is going to end.
Exactly. And the stream is shared right back in March, when the pandemic really sort of came out as world news. The stream said that the collective fear of the pandemic is going to cause it to grow, and they weren't predicting the future as much as they were predicting human nature, that we were going to be glued to our TVs, that the CNNs of the world were going to be running global stats 24/7 for you to tune into and allow fear to set in if you so choose. And for people that don't have these tools, I understand how that happens. You think it's going to happen to you or someone that you love, and you get afraid. And this isn't that whole, law of attraction, I'm not going to be impacted by this, so I'm just going to ignore it. It's giving you the tools to choose to ignore it if you want to, but also the tools to say, okay, I'm going to take the World Health or CDC, if you're in the United States, I'm going to take their guidance and understand that, there is a communicable disease that's out there, illness that's out there that I could catch, and I'm going to take the wise precautions not to get it. But that's not the same as living in fear of it and letting it cripple you. And what I see that really takes me down my spiral when I get into it is not only the person fearing it. I feel bad for the people that are fearing it. I don't have a lot of empathy, though, for people that are fear-mongering or judging other people around it. That's very negative behavior. I think I told you, Matt, that there's some friend of mine on Facebook, and I have a lot of friends that I don't really know on Facebook because I take requests from everybody that watches the show and listens and all that. So somebody took a video of a woman walking her child in a stroller, and she wasn't wearing a mask, and they were ridiculing this woman and putting the video up. They don't even know her because they're not wearing a mask. I thought that's just very low vibe behavior to concern yourself so much with that. And by the way, how perfect is your existence? If you're posting things like that about someone else, what are you not dealing with in your own life that you're focused on her and not you? I just don't like that vibration of judgment. I don't like the vibration of fear, the vibration of hypocrisy. Those things are just very negative. And I'm not a perfect person, certainly, but I just try to move away from that stuff as much as possible because it doesn't really serve anything other than to take me down into lower vibration. And I'm of no use to anyone down there.
It's true. Being of high vibration allows you to lift people up. Being of low vibration just drags everyone down.
Exactly. So the message is be healthy, be safe, set a positive intention for yourself, take wise precautions, but, don't dip into the fear of it all and don't feed into the, people are dying left and right all over the world. People are dying every day in our lives and people are being born every day. And we did not come here to be here forever. So let's stop fearing death so much. And I understand that if you've got a loved one that you lose, you're going to miss them. But there's also a zoomed out perspective regarding that. And, we had Carrie that went through boot camp. I think I'm going to have her on the show soon. Her mother passed away while she was in Thai boot camp. And she said it was a lovely, magical experience having these tools and sharing her mother's end of life experience with her. It was very different than she would have viewed it before she kind of got to this zoomed out perspective. Anything else to wrap up from you, Matt?
Just that, I think go back and listen to the stream's message again. It'll be up on the website and on the podcast in a couple of days. Have fun with your lives.
Yeah, that's a really good way to end. Have fun with your lives, no matter what, and detune fear. Thank you so much for joining me, Matt.
Pleasure, man.
Thank you all so much for listening. Absolutely. Namaste.
Namaste.